It's hard to know where to start with this one. It is just savage and brutal and excruciatingly gruesome in some points, which is exactly what I went to the theaters for. Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. On today's video, we're going to be talking about Evil Dead Burn. Burn, baby, burn is right. So I don't even know where to start, but let's get into it. If you're new here, welcome. If you are a returning subscriber, thank you so much for being a subscriber. This one currently has a 6.9 on IMDb, and that is an app that I use very constantly. If any of them sound like my cup of tea or the type of movie watcher that I am, then I typically will look at that to see if I want to see a movie or if I don't. But honestly, with Evil Dead, it is a franchise that I have been looking forward to. I have been seeing all the little teasers and things coming out about this one, and I really did try to avoid them. I didn't even watch an official trailer. I only watched a teaser on this one because if you've seen any of my other videos, you'll know I kind of try to stay away from trailers because I don't want anything super spoiled. IMDb is a resource I mention pretty much in all of my movie review videos. It is a great resource if you're looking to see reviews and what a movie's doing, whether or not you want to see it or not. Oftentimes you can read the reviews and see if there's one that sounds kind of like you and your movie taste, and if it is, you can usually gauge that to see if you want to see a movie. With a franchise like Evil Dead, with all the little teasers and trailers that have been out, I have been looking forward to this movie since I heard it was coming out, and I knew regardless of what I saw in a trailer, I was going to see this movie. But currently it has 6.9 as its rating. I do anticipate that may steady or even go lower, and I will get into why. This movie is about a young couple in turmoil, and the widow loses her husband in a kind of twisted turn of events, and then ends up going off to the world's worst getaway with her terrible ex-in-laws, and it just kind of gets worse and worse from there. Honestly, even without the Deadites and the Evil Dead layer to this movie, it would be cringe anyway because of the storyline and it being what it is. But they basically just go off to this summer home that's seemingly abandoned for the visit from hell. Literally and figuratively. Whether you're returning or new to the channel, I do a couple of tests that are particular to me on how I gauge a movie and my experience of it, so that way it gives you an idea of what to expect without actually giving away any spoilers or what you'll actually see in the movie. The first of those is the trailer test. With the trailer test, I'm basically just gauging, did I feel like I got exactly what I was sold in a teaser or trailer in theaters versus what I saw online beforehand. For Evil Dead, I think that we all know more or less what to expect. If you're a fan of the franchise or a fan of horror period, then you kind of know the flavor to expect with Evil Dead. Brutality, grotesque level of gore. You should expect to be level 10 grossed out. You should expect to want to shut your eyes and be like, oh no, or oh my god, because that is exactly what this franchise aims to deliver. And to me, that's the snippet that I got when I watched the teaser that shows the main character and how she's just kind of scrambling around this like dirty looking living room. And it just, to me, evoked everything that I'm used to with the previous movies, which are the Evil Dead Rise and the Evil Dead that came out in 2013. And so I definitely feel like it gave you exactly what you were sold in those snippets. So it is a definite pass for that reason. Another test I like to do is the husband sleep test. This is just the simplified gauge that I use my husband for, because he is one of those sleepy moviegoers where if a movie doesn't completely keep him engaged, then he is just going to be lights out for the movie. He does not care. He's going to snooze through it if it's not engaging enough. So that said, for this one, it was a pass for the most part until we got to a certain aspect of the end. So I would say that's a pass-ish. And if you're someone who needs a lot of action in a movie, this one definitely will have a lot of action for you. However, if after a certain point a similar style of action gets too repetitive for you and it'll still kind of send you on that nosedive, then it's still a possibility that you may doze off. I would say that's kind of a 50-50 there. Next test I want to introduce is a little bit different, and it is the Gore-O-Meter. And basically it's just to gauge a 1 out of 10. Where do I rate the gore on this movie? Evil Dead is absolutely the pinnacle of gore. This one is no exception, and it is a 10 out of 10 with the gore. You won't be disappointed. I am a very tenured horror movie watcher, and I can tell you that there were several scenes that had me super squeamish. I am pretty sure that I dry heaved on a couple of them, and it was pretty hard to watch. I would suggest you eat your snacks early on and get them out of the way, or perhaps eat well before you get there, because it's a lot. Maybe chew some gum and leave it at that, because it can get to be pretty intense as far as the level of gore, but it will deliver absolutely 10 out of 10 on that for it. Another one I want to talk about is balance, and that's whether or not I feel like the flow of the movie was good. Did it have enough action versus storyline, or did it slow down too much at any point to make it just unbearably slow? This one definitely passed on that, and for me that's because there is pretty much non-stop chaos and action going on through the entire thing. It does drag a little toward the end, but it wasn't enough drag for me to really give it a fail. It was a pass anyway, and that's because it still has things going on that keep you engaged because you want to know what's going to happen. And also, if you haven't gone to see it yet, please make sure that you stay through the credits, because there are additional scenes that you'll see mid-credit and post-credit, and you don't want to miss those. Next is storytelling and character development. Do I think it passed or failed on that? Did it do a good job of developing the characters enough to make you care about them, or just enough to keep it interesting enough that you keep up with the storyline? I think this one was a fail, honestly, only because the storyline really didn't do it for me, and I don't think it's going to do it for a lot of horror fans. I mean, if you're only going in for just the brutality of Evil Dead, then you'll probably get what you came for. But if you actually want the storyline to deliver on the level that you actually care about the protagonist and the characters, this one's not going to do that for you. I'll tell you that right now. And the main character, I just don't feel like they did enough to really make you empathize enough with her. I mean, you do for sure because of the situation she's in, but at the same time, it's like surface level at best. And the other characters besides the main protagonist are so horrid for so many reasons. Even the one character that seems decent is meh at best, and then kind of nosedives at some points. So you end up rooting for them becoming deadites, and you root for the unaliving basically to happen, and that's never good for a storyline. You don't just want people to hate all your characters, so that's why I count it as a fail. On that note, I give the ending a 3 out of 10. I just did not feel that it was good enough based on everything else that happens in the movie. I feel like everything else is kind of at a level at least 6 to 8 to 10. The ending just kind of takes it all the way down to a 3. I don't really feel like that should be the case, especially with this intense of a storyline or this intense of a movie. I think that the ending should be the most like of it all, because the 2013 version is my particular favorite of the recent Evil Deads, and that's because honestly that ending is pretty up there. It's chaotic, it's insane. I want to say that it even broke records because of the level of fake blood that was used in the ending scene. And it really delivers on the ending versus all the buildup that you deal with throughout the movie. And this one just did not live up to that for me. I won't give any spoilers away, but I will say that all I could think about was the Terminator 2 movie and how it made me want to watch that instead afterward. And that's not good. But anyway, let's talk about the good, so that way you know exactly what I think is great about this movie. So like I mentioned, it is barbarically brutal, which is exactly what I expect from this franchise. There is gore, there is blood and guts and gnarly scenes that just make you want to puke, which is exactly what you expect. It's got amazing point of view, camera work. There is just a mix of both practical and like modern visual effects, like CGI type stuff that doesn't take anything away from the movie. There are movies that I have criticized specifically because of that, where they use CGI in a very googly magoo type of way. That's the best way I can explain it. Sorry for all the alliteration, but it just ends up being goofy rather than being scary. This one, no, this is what I feel like modern visual effects were made for, to make these movies enhanced in all the right ways, and I think they do that beautifully in this movie. But let's talk about the bad. So like I mentioned, the storyline does fall a bit flat, and that stinks. There's not enough development for you to care enough about the protagonists and really root for them. I mean, I feel like that is a big part of what makes me love some horror movies and what makes them like canonized favorites, is when you just have a great final girl or a great final character or a great set of final characters that make you laugh, make you care about them, and give you just enough that you root for them and want to see what happens to them. This one was all right. That's the best I can say about that part. And the ending just being so anticlimactic, and the fact that I actually felt like the mid-credit and post-credit scenes were actually better than what we got in the ending for this one. Oh, that just, I don't know, that really rubs me the wrong way. So if you do any kind of screen testing, I would hope that someone let them know that at some point, that the ending needed to be better, or that the visual effects on the ending specifically needed to be upped. The way that I can explain it without actually giving anything away is that my preference and how I would describe the way that I wanted to see a certain character in the ending scene is that I would have wanted to see a air-fried, zombified version of this character. And I just would have wanted to see like parts sloughing off of it and things looking just horribly gnarled, but practical, like still looking like it's on a person, versus it being something that's visual effects. That would have been my preference for sure, than the direction that they took. That may not be everyone's take, and of course, everyone is entitled to their own opinion. There's definitely going to be people that are going to think that this is a 10 out of 10, and that's amazing. That's great. For me, it was a 6 out of 10. That's the best I can do for this one. I would say Evil Dead Rise for me is a 7, and then Evil Dead from 2013, that one for me is an 8. I feel like in both of those, I cared a lot more about the storyline because it just made more sense to me, and the situations that the characters find themselves in are just more like hit you in the feels, in the sense that that first movie is a group of friends and a sibling who are trying to help someone get through an addiction situation, and who cannot empathize with that situation? I mean, come on. And then the second one being a single mother and her children, and then her sister, and then being in this already kind of bad, scary apartment situation while there's a storm going on, and the kids just kind of getting into some bad stuff and going berserk from there. But you feel bad for them, and especially, you know, you remember those moments and how they kind of appeal to your feelings or emotions for their relationship connections. In this one, it's just kind of devoid of all that because you don't care enough about the characters and their relationships. And the characters kind of feel more disconnected than they do connected. And that is definitely something that I felt was different than the others. I feel like this one was more rushed in the sense of the way that the storyline was written. I think that overall, it is a great movie, and visually and gore-wise, everything is so good that you can still appreciate the movie, and it's still absolutely worth watching. Would I recommend you going and watching this in theaters? I do recommend you watch this in theaters because it is going to be a much more killer, pun intended, experience in theaters than it would be at home. Not that at home is bad, it's absolutely not. And for most people, you might have a better surround sound and crazy theater situation than they do at most theaters. However, I just think that this one is one worth seeing in theaters if you can swing it. Will I rewatch or buy this movie later on when it comes out? I would say yes. I think it's worth having in the collection as far as, you know, if you have the Evil Dead movies, which I do, even though I may not want to rewatch it right away, or I may not want to rewatch it super often. I absolutely would love to have an Evil Dead marathon with these movies because they are just dark and scary and gory in all the right ways. And if that is a vibe that you're looking for when you're watching some scary movies, especially if it's for a Halloween gathering or something along that line, then these are absolutely worth having in your collection. Have you seen this movie? What would you rate it? Let me know in the comments below. And if you did go to see it, or if you just happened to see it recently, have you seen the Ice Cream Man latest trailer? It is gnarly, and I am pretty excited to see that one too. It reminds me a lot of if you were to mix There's Something Wrong with the Children, Terrifier, and Cooties. I feel like if you mixed all of those movies together and sprinkled it with an ice cream theme, then that is what this movie is going to be, and I am so here for it. I'm excited to see that one. Are you excited to see it? If so, let me know in the comments below. If you have not subscribed yet, please make sure and hit that subscribe button, and also if you like the content, please make sure you hit that like button so I can continue making more content. But thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye guys.